There are places on this planet where no human being should ever be. 200 meters below the surface of the Earth is one of those places. Total darkness. Absolute silence. It was there that an explorer found something that would change his life forever. A miracle of the Virgin Mary that happened where only God could witness it. But before we continue, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I'd love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. You know, the kind of job most people don't even know exists. Travis Bennett, 38, was one of those invisible workers, a commercial cave explorer, the kind of person mining companies call before they begin any operation, the kind who descends where light never reaches, to map what lies in the depths. 16 years doing this, 16 years going down into darkness and coming back alive. Until that September day. The job was in Tennessee. A mining company had identified promising mineral deposits, but before beginning any excavation, they needed to know exactly what lay below. Ancient cave systems, natural tunnels, chambers that could compromise the entire operation if not mapped first. That's what Travis existed for. The apartment in Knoxville was, as always, too quiet. White walls, minimal furniture, framed photos Travis avoided looking at directly. The bed still had 2 pillows, even though only one had been used for 2 years. Linda had left on a Thursday night, a car crossing an intersection, a truck that didn't see the red light. Just like that, a whole life erased in 3 seconds. No children to comfort Travis, no close family to fill the emptiness, only the work, only the caves, only the darkness that, strangely, was less frightening than the silence at home. If God exists, Travis had said at the funeral, he wasn't watching that night, and he stopped believing. On the morning of the expedition, Travis checked his equipment. Climbing rope, certified, helmet with spotlight, new battery, radio, working perfectly, everything in place, everything as it should be. Derek, the surface operator, was stationed at the cave entrance when Travis arrived. 50 years old, veteran of hundreds of operations. He knew the protocol by heart. "System looks stable," Derek said, reviewing the geological data. "Main chamber about 200 meters down." Travis nodded. The cave entrance was a crack in the rock, wide enough. Travis positioned himself at the edge, tested the rope one last time. "Radio check," Derek said. "Loud and clear." "Good descent." Travis began to lower himself. Daylight vanished in seconds. The helmet's beam created a yellowish cone that barely pierced the surrounding blackness. Muffled sounds, cold air. The familiar embrace of the depths. 50 meters. The cave walls were rough, marked by time. Rock formations shaped over millennia. Travis descended methodically, checking anchor points, testing every move. 50 meters, wall stable. 100 meters. Here, human marks began to appear. Spray-painted graffiti in red and white. Johnny 1987 in large letters. Explorers Club 1995 with a crude skull drawing, evidence that others had been here long ago. 150 meters. The air was different here, heavier, colder. The rope uncoiled constantly from the reel Derek operated above. A lifeline, the only connection to the world above. 180 meters. The vertical descent began to tilt, turning into a slope. Travis detached from the rope and started to walk, the spotlight sweeping across the space ahead. And then the chamber opened. 200 meters below the surface, a natural cavity the size of a church. The ceiling vanished into the darkness above. Massive stalagmites rose from the ground like stone fingers pointing toward nothingness. "Derek, I'm in the main chamber. Significant space. Beginning mapping." Travis began his methodical work, taking measurements, photographing formations, marking reference points, the kind of work that demanded complete focus but left the mind free to wander. And Travis's mind always wandered to the same place. Linda, at 23, smiling in that wedding photo. Linda at 30, painting the room that never became a nursery. Linda at 36, saying everything was fine, that they still had each other, that it was enough. And then Linda not existing anymore. Travis stopped thinking, forced himself to focus on the job, measured another section of the wall, photographed a particularly interesting rock formation. That's when he saw it, between two rocks at the base of a stalagmite, something that didn't belong there. Small, partially hidden. Travis leaned closer and knelt. A wooden object. Travis pulled it out carefully. An image, carved from dark wood, perhaps 15 centimeters tall, covered in dirt and the dust of years, but unmistakably recognizable. The Virgin Mary. A blue mantle still faintly visible beneath the grime. A serene face, hands in prayer. Old, very old, judging by the wear on the wood. "Someone lost this here," Travis murmured. He brushed some of the dirt away with his thumb. The face of the Virgin Mary emerged more clearly, an expression of peace, of compassion. Linda had one like this, larger. It sat on her bedside table. Travis saw it every night when Linda prayed before sleeping, a ritual he never joined, but never mocked either. "You don't have to believe," Linda used to say, and he respected that, until the accident. Until he realized that all those prayers hadn't stopped a truck from running a red light. Travis put the image in the pocket of his coveralls and continued mapping. He worked for another 40 minutes, documenting every section of the chamber. He was almost done when he decided to check a side fissure that might indicate additional tunnels. The fissure was narrow, but Travis managed to slip in his head and shoulders. The spotlight illuminated a smaller space beyond. Empty. He was backing out when he heard it. Crack. The sound of rock under tension. Travis froze. Crack. Louder this time. And then the world exploded into motion. The side wall of the chamber began to give way. Not a total collapse, just a section, maybe 3 meters wide. But enough. Rocks tumbling, dust rising in suffocating clouds. Travis ran. Stones fell all around. One passed so close he felt the rush of air. Another struck the ground where he had been seconds before. And then silence. Dust everywhere. Travis coughed, trying to clear his lungs. The spotlight sliced through the haze in weak yellow beams. As the dust began to settle, Travis saw it. The passage, the only way out of the chamber. Blocked. No, 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 no. Travis ran to the blockage, tried pushing the rocks. Unmoving, tried finding a gap. Nothing. Only solid stone. He grabbed the radio with trembling hands. "Derek, Derek, I've had a collapse. The passage is blocked." Static. "Derek, do you hear me?" Only the empty hiss of the radio. "Derek!" Nothing. Travis hit the radio. Adjusted the frequency. Tried again. Silence. Meters of solid rock between him and the surface. The signal couldn't get through. Travis forced himself to breathe. Panicking wouldn't help. He needed to think. Derek would realize he'd lost contact. He'd follow protocol, call for rescue. A team would come with heavy drilling equipment, but how long would that take? Travis looked around the chamber. It wasn't small. There was air, but not infinite. In a sealed chamber, oxygen would eventually run out. How long? Hours, if he was lucky. And drilling through tons of rock took days, maybe a week, depending on the equipment available. The math didn't add up. Travis sat on the cold rock. For the first time in 16 years of work, he felt real fear. The primitive terror of being trapped where no human should be, alone, in the dark, with meters of rock between you and any possibility of help. Okay, think. Travis began to search for another way out, systematically. He checked every wall, every crack, every possible opening that might lead to another tunnel. Nothing. The chamber had only one exit, and it was blocked. He returned to the blockage, tried again to move the rocks. Useless. They were wedged together, locked by their own weight. He looked up. Maybe he could climb. But the ceiling was at least 20 meters high, and even if he reached it, There was no visible opening. Travis tried the radio again and again and again, only static. Hours passed. Travis didn't know how many. No watch, no way to measure time except the growing fatigue. And the air. He started to notice it after a few hours. Breathing becoming harder. He sat down again, needed to conserve energy, conserve oxygen. The spotlight flickered. Battery dying. Travis turned it off. Absolute darkness swallowed everything. A darkness so complete it seemed to have weight, pressing against his eyes, seeping through his pores. In the dark, only his breathing, his own heartbeat. The silence of the earth around him. Linda. The name came out as a whisper. Travis took from his pocket the image of the Virgin Mary. He couldn't see it in the dark, but he felt the wood beneath his fingers. Linda. His voice breaking. I'm sorry for everything, for not being the husband you deserved. Tears in his eyes, the first since the funeral. Travis pressed the image against his chest. Breathing was harder now, noticeably harder. The air was getting heavy. Travis laid down on the cold rock, each breath now a conscious effort. Please. He didn't know who he was speaking to. God? The Virgin Mary, whose image he held? Please, not like this. The darkness was getting thicker. Or was it just his vision failing? Travis no longer knew. He gripped the image tighter. Linda, I wish I could believe the way you believed. And he closed his eyes. He didn't know how much time had passed. Minutes? Hours? Consciousness came and went in waves. And then, crack. A distant sound. Rock shifting. Far away. Somewhere else in the cave. Crack, crack, crack. A small secondary collapse. Somewhere Travis couldn't see. And then he felt it. Air. Fresh. Cold. A current brushing against his face. Travis breathed. Once. Deeply. Twice. Air. Fresh oxygen flowing from somewhere. He opened his eyes. Still total darkness. But the air was different. Lighter. Breathable. With trembling hands, Travis turned the floodlight back on. The cone of light illuminated the chamber, and on the side wall, where before there had been solid rock, there was now a crack, thin, no more than a few centimeters wide. But it was there, and air flowed through it. Travis crawled to the crack, put his face close. The air current was real, fresh, coming from some tunnel system connected elsewhere. Thank you, he whispered to no one, or to someone. He didn't know anymore. He was still holding the image of the Virgin Mary. Travis breathed, the fresh air filling desperate lungs. His mind beginning to clear, the fear retreating. He was still trapped, but he had air, he had time. Rescue would come, and he would be alive to be rescued. The following hours were an eternity. Travis alternated between sitting near the crack, where the air was fresher, and trying the radio periodically. Nothing on the radio, but the air kept flowing. And then, after more than 20 hours trapped, he heard it. Voices. Muffled. Distant. Travis, are you there? Derek. Travis struck the rock with a metal tool. Tin, 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 tin. The voices stopped. Then, tin, 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 knocking back. They heard him. I'm here. He didn't know if his voice would carry through the rock, but he kept hitting it. Drilling sounds began, mechanical, constant, closer and closer. Travis waited, for the first time in hours, with hope. The drilling went on. Hours. The floodlight's battery finally died completely. Travis was left in darkness, but it didn't matter anymore. He had air. Rescue was coming. And he still had the image of the Virgin Mary in his hands. When the first sliver of light broke through the blockage, Travis began to cry. Tears of relief, of gratitude, of something he couldn't name. The opening grew, light pouring in, air even fresher rushing through. And then a face appeared through the opening. Travis! Derek, covered in dust, eyes wide with relief. I'm here, Travis said, voice hoarse. I'm here. Hands pulled him through the gap. More people on the other side, rescue team, paramedics. Travis emerged into the floodlights, covered in dust, exhausted, but alive. "How did you survive so long?" Derek asked as paramedics began to check him. "We calculated the air should have run out hours ago." Travis looked at the image of the Virgin Mary still in his hand. "There was a collapse," he said. "A small one, somewhere else, opened a crack." One of the rescue engineers frowned. "A crack? Where?" The ascent took 4 hours. Travis was weak, needing constant support, but he was climbing, toward the surface, toward the light, toward life. When he finally stepped out of the cave, Travis breathed deeply, air that had never tasted so sweet. At home, for the first time in 2 years, Travis fully opened the curtains of his apartment. Sunlight flooded the space that had been kept in perpetual twilight. He walked to the closet he once shared with Linda. Her half had remained untouched since the accident. Clothes still hung neatly on hangers, shoes perfectly aligned, as if she might return at any moment and would need everything in its place. Travis started slowly, one box at a time. Clothes Linda loved, donated to the charity she had supported. Shoes she would never wear again, given to women's shelters. Books she adored, sent to public libraries. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about honoring, letting the things Linda loved continue to do good in the world. At the back of the closet in a small wooden box, Travis found them. Her rosary, her Bible with bookmarks in dozens of places, and then the image of the Virgin Mary. Travis placed the image of the Virgin Mary he had found in the cave beside Linda's photo on the nightstand, side by side. The two images, the one Linda had prayed to, the one that had saved Travis. "Thank you," he said simply. Weeks turned into months. Travis returned to work. He kept descending into caves, kept mapping the darkness. But something was different now. Before, he descended because there was nothing on the surface that mattered. Now he descended knowing there was something to return to, not Linda. It would never be Linda again, but her memory, peace with her, gratitude for the time they had shared. One day, Travis was preparing his gear for a new expedition when a young explorer approached him, maybe 25 years old, his first professional contract, nervous. "You're Travis Bennett?" the young man asked. "I am. I've heard stories about you, about the collapse, how you survived." Travis kept checking the rope. "I got lucky. But people say it was that there was something else, that you found an image." The boy stopped, embarrassed. Travis looked at him. He saw fear there, the same fear all rookies carried before their first deep descent. Travis thought about 200 meters of darkness, about running out of air, about an impossible crack opening at the exact right moment. "I'm still afraid," he said honestly, "but I learned something down there." The young man waited. When everything seems closed, when you think you're about to suffocate, sometimes air comes from where you least expect it. He picked up his harness and smiled faintly. "And that's what keeps me going down." And he began to descend. Before finishing, I want to invite you to join our community of prayer to the Virgin Mary, a space of faith and hope where people from all over the world unite to pray and share the graces they've received. If you feel in your heart the desire to be part of this chain of prayer, click below and become a member of the channel today. Come pray with us. And look, if you've made it this far, to the end of Travis's story, do something for me. Write AIR in the comments, because that's exactly what the Virgin Mary brought when there was no more hope left. I want to see how many hearts this story truly reached. And every time I read that word in the comments, I'll know that one more person believes that the miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen. And if this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.